synonymous with technology. While
It's another day, the sun is shining. Got to know what's going on around you. Wake up, it's the time to motivate your mind. Come with me, let's make this moment brighter. Wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Come on and wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Hey.
Good morning. Welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise. Happy Monday to you. I am Philip Simon.
And I am Mark Daniels filling in for Star on this Monday morning.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Monday.
The day after Father's Day, Mark.
Oh,
I hope you
yes.
had a great one yesterday.
Yes, I was treated to, I think I had breakfast in bed. I got to snack on random snacks for the day. So my father, we had a nice little pool party around my family members. So it was a great day yesterday. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and all of the mothers that serve as fathers as well. I know you already got Mother's Day, but we still giving you a piece of Father's Day too.
Yeah. I had a great day actually yesterday. Same type of thing. You know, I tried to get away and say, you don't have to do anything. We'll just go and have a lunch together out west. But they still woke me up with breakfast. Had a great lunch, and then as I was settling in, trying to get at least 6 hours sleep for Bahamas at sunrise, they came in and says, we're going to have a movie night.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so a little bit of sleep, but it was great. It kind of just reminds us, even if it's just one special day a year, but certainly every day, what a blessing it is to have children.
It was the best thing I've done, besides getting married.
Yeah, you got to put that in there, boy. Listen, it's a smart man, Godfrey. Yeah, smart
But
man.
I feel like a real dad now. I got like socks and some like scented soap.
Oh, you got the
and-
boxes. You reach.
I cross over now. I official. Thanks, fam. Thanks, sons.
Well, listen, we've got another great show lined up for you today here on Bahamas at Sunrise. We have the Assistant Commissioner of Police joining us and being joined by, Sue, I forgot the name already, but certainly we're going to be seeing them in just a few minutes. Solomon Cash to discuss crime, reduction in crime, obviously, over the last several months, but certainly crime strategy going forward. We also have the lovely Kayla Smith, my good friend in the studio, president of the Bahamas Sickle Cell Association, to discuss Sickle Cell Awareness Month. And of course, there's been some concern, particularly during this time with COVID. Kayla's going to be talking with us. And of course, another good friend, Dr. Wesley Francis, is here to give us the facts about pancreatic cancer.
That sounds like you have a good show lineup, but my side is better. We have Noelle Seymour. She's Junior Achiever New Providence 2020 Most Distinguished Achiever. And we also have Kevin Turnquist, the JA Executive Advisor, here to talk to us about this year's winner. And economist Rupert Pinder. We always love having Rupert on the show. Here to talk to us about tax reforms.
All right.
All this and more. But first, let's see what's happening with the weather. Let's check in with Brother Godfrey.
Yeah, it's one little bit of
Weather at Sunrise, brought to you by Bahamas First. First in insurance, today, tomorrow.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, Bahamas. In your first look at weather, sunrise, still got an upper level trough, triggering off some pockets of showers across the islands. But a pretty good day and stuff weather-wise, because high pressure will build across the islands through the week, along with some Sahara dust will stabilize the atmosphere through Friday. Today, partly sunny, hot and humid, and yes, there's a chance of a few showers, maybe a light little thunderstorm. Your high temperature 89 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a few showers and a light little thunderstorm. Your low going down to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And there's some region highs and lows across the Caribbean, Barbados 83 and 80. In Jamaica, 90 and 76. In Trinidad, 80 and 77. And the Turks and Caicos Islands, 88 and 78. Across North America, Atlanta, 85 and 71. In Raleigh, 87 and 73. In Miami, 88 and 78. Dallas, Texas, 95 and 78. And Toronto, Canada, 74 and 66. As we go through the week, we look at those partly sunny skies, hot and humid because we have that high pressure building in, along with some hard dust, with stabilized light winds, and so there's a chance of a couple of showers by afternoon. The temperature daytime will be around the 90-degree mark. At nighttime, in the upper 70s. That puts a wrap on your first look at weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Phil.
Thank you very much, Godfrey. Of course, we know that everybody has been affected by COVID-19 virus, and in many ways, it has impacted our life and the economy. Of course, what is happening now is also happening on a massive global scale. There have been many negative effects, but thankfully, we have had just few positive cases and deaths here in the country, and of course, a noticeable reduction in crime. Very pleased to be joined this morning on Bahamas at Sunrise by the Assistant Commissioner of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Mr. Solomon Cash, and Sabrina Porter, Superintendent. Good morning, lady, gentlemen. Welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise. So good to have you. Of course, we would have heard reports also in the House of Assembly from the Minister of National Security outlining some of the statistics most recently over the last several months, but of course over the last year. Has there been a noticeable reduction in crime during this period? And if any, do you have any statistics that kind of speak to this?
Okay, there has been a noticeable reduction in crime. I won't go into numbers as it relates to statistics because I don't want to preempt the Commissioner of Police, who should be reporting on crime in his mid-year address on the crime strategy, statistics, and the percentages. Right. But from where I sit, I can tell you, in looking at all categories of crimes, they are down. And that's due to a lot of strategies different initiatives we had put in place just to prevent occurrences of crime.
Well, I imagine just like everybody living in these current days and times, we've never seen anything like COVID, and adjustments have to be made all straight across the board, whether it's business, society, civil society, and certainly nothing like this before that the Royal Bahamas Police Force has actively had to engage in, at least for this length of period of time. What has been your approach during this period?
Firstly, let me say, as you said quite rightly, it was something new to us to go into a full curfew strategy to limit the movements of our citizens. That in itself was challenging, but yeah. So we had to use a lot of our resources, human resources, so much so that even the brother partners, law enforcement partners, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, they were part of the team in doing this. You find that the total lockdown, given the scope of the movement of people, was really challenging. But I must say, I'm pleased to say that our Bahamian population really adhered to the curfew for the most part. There were one or two persons who violated the curfew, but again, I can say that the majority of the Bahamian population did adhere to the curfew.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we see it all the time sometimes on social media because, again, everything is instant, right, and becomes public right away. But I'm so glad to hear that for the most part, we are a law-abiding society. Yes, yeah. What do you say then to the general population that is watching this show? It's not over yet, right? I mean, we still got at least another 2 weeks. We're going to see what happens in the House of Assembly today with the Prime Minister and the announcement that he makes. But what do you continue to say to the Bahamian people as we remain actually in the midst of this pandemic?
We would like to say to the Bahamian public to continue to stay safe, and they must realize that we still have a curfew in place. So they must adhere to the curfew. And that curfew starts every night at 9 p.m.
That's right.
So they must adhere to the curfew.
You know, yesterday I was actually even driving. I went out for lunch for Father's Day. First time taking the kids out since the the curfew and lockdown started. And even coming back up along the beach side, I saw a police car pull on over. It was even near the cave, so I'm like, well, there doesn't seem to be a lot of people on the beach there. But the cars that were even lined up there, they pulled over and they asked them to move. And the people moved. And at first I was like, well, why do you even have to bother with something that seems so trivial? But at the same time, it is the law. I mean, this is the law. Yeah. Do you anticipate this curfew? What happens after the curfew is extended? Do you anticipate maybe there might be a rise in crime. I'm sure the police has a strategy post-pandemic as well.
You know, crime is dynamic. Let me put it that way. So there's a lot of uncertainties as to how people would behave. But the strategies we already implemented, okay, in dealing with persons with criminal intent was even before we started the curfew. We had already engaged our teams, our operational teams, who pay attention to hotspots, looking at persons who we know are to be prolific offenders. Those strategies are always paramount in our operations. But what I would want to say is that, you know, the minds of people with criminal intent is unknown.
Right.
Okay, a lot of times you don't know the intent until the act of criminality has already been committed. So how do you control persons with criminal intent? You must look at who are the would-be criminals. That is something we do daily. We look at crime trends. We look at what our intelligence is suggesting to us. Once we are certain as to the way forward, because the criminals commits the crime.
Right.
Okay, crimes are committed by people. Okay, with greed, who want, who have total control. Okay, so once we identify these people, then we occupy the space that they want to work from. Okay, so how do we do that? You will see where we will deploy resources to look at these areas that we refer to as hotspot. Then we look at persons who we identify to be the criminals that we suspect to be committing these crimes that we refer to as our prolific offenders. Once we do that, we somewhat can put a lid on controlling the element of criminality. But again, you find that persons with criminal intent, they just look for a window of opportunity. And if they have that window of opportunity, I can tell you, they will offend and take advantage of it. Yes.
So your law enforcement officers, you talked a lot about preventing crime.
Yes.
But Sabrina, I'll give you the last question as it relates to, you know, the expanded role of a police officer. I mean, because sometimes the image is the police coming, run. You know, have you seen an evolution in the approach to crime prevention on the Royal Bahamas Police Force? And again, it's very important that there is this partnership between the police and the community.
Well, the police-community partnership, we have seen that go on to an all-time high level.
Okay.
We've been getting good results from the community. We have fostered more better relationships and partnerships with the community. So that has been a contributing factor to whatever successes we have today.
And for persons who might want, I mean, obviously everybody knows 911. You know, you can call the police for more than just those types of emergencies, imagine. Yeah?
Yes.
All right, great. Listen, thank you so much for joining us here on Bahamas at Sunrise. We've been with the Assistant Commissioner of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Mr. Solomon Cash, and Superintendent Sabrina Porter. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
We are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me 'cause I can count on you.
Good afternoon. First response. How can I help you?
I've been in an accident on West Bay Street. Can you send someone to help?
Yes, ma'am. A first response team will be there in 15 minutes. Are you hurt?
No, I'm fine, but a bit upset.
We're glad you're not hurt. Please, try to relax. Our team will take care of everything as soon as they arrive.
First Response provides immediate on-site service and support from the scene of an accident through the claims and repair process. And it's free to all Bahamas First insured drivers in New Providence every day for any type of accident. If you drive and want first response on your side, call 32 First or visit bahamasfirst.com for the name of an authorized Bahamas First agent. First response can't prevent an accident from happening,
But it can certainly ease your mind when it happens.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. While it is easy to be concerned and focused on the COVID-19 pandemic, it is also important to remember that we have other serious diseases and issues here in the country that can affect members of our community. Kayla Smith, president of the Bahamas Sickle Cell Association, is here to discuss Sickle Cell Awareness Month. Good morning, Kayla.
Good morning.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be back early this morning.
Yes.
One correction. I
Okay.
should say two. It's Kayla Smith Mortimer.
Okay.
And secondly, it's not Sickle Cell Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
On Friday, June 19th, was Sickle Cell Awareness Day around the world and the globe. And so we're celebrating and acknowledging sickle cell and making sure everybody knows what it is.
It deserves a whole month.
Yes.
So right now, I'm changing it.
Okay, all
it's
right.
Sickle Cell Awareness Month. We endorse it right here on Bahamas at Sunrise.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so tell us about Sickle Cell Awareness Day and the significance behind it.
Well, sickle cell is predominantly a black-brown disease, and so United Nations uses that day to observe sickle cell, so persons know what the disease is. It's something you're born with, and so from the day you enter the world until the last day, you're fighting this disease, and it's a very painful disease. And so we want all aspects of family, friends, work to understand what sickle cell is, and so they can help persons that have the disease and understand what they go through. So they themselves can be tested and make sure everybody knows their status, because the hardest thing with having sickle cell is finding out after when you're born, you know, because you have to be really prepared for it as a mother or father, as a parent, right? Because it's very challenging and it demands a lot. So we just want to make sure everybody knows what sickle cell disease is.
And in my researching on World Sickle Cell Awareness Day, I read it's about empowering those who are affected by the disease and spreading their stories so people know exactly what it is that they go through. And so just give us briefly, what is sickle cell anemia and how does it impact somebody who suffers from it?
Well, sickle cell anemia is the blood cells are normally shaped like a donut with an indentation. And when you have sickle cell, it's a crescent shape. So it doesn't have a lot of oxygen that it normally has. So when you have a crisis, it means that those cells stick together, they clamp together, and they can't pass through blood vessels properly. So they get stuck, jammed to the organs, and so you have a painful episode. Now that can be anywhere in the body where blood travels, which is everywhere. So you get massive pain, and I mean, whatever is your worst pain, times that by 100.
Wow.
And that's what somebody with sickle cell goes through. And so they would need to make sure they have lots of fluid, oxygen, and pain meds to combat and get over. And so even like with COVID-19, one of the challenges with sickle cell is acute chest syndrome. So our lungs are attacked when we're having crisis. And so we have a compromised immune system. So with COVID, it was even more serious for us to make sure we weren't in any environment that could compromise our lungs as well.
So you mentioned earlier this is a black-brown disease or disorder, and that you're essentially born with it. Could you explain for people how do they discover they would have sickle cell anemia, and like what are the chances?
Well, for us here in the Bahamas, we don't have testing at birth, which is something that we're advocating for, because you should know at birth, because that will give you the best opportunity to help fight the disease and understand it. So the only way you can get sickle cell disease, both parents have to carry the gene. So if you carry the gene, you really don't know, right? So everybody should have a test called electrophoresis. Now, that's not a standardized test, so you'll have to ask your physician to, at maybe your annual, to have that as a part of your checkup, right? Once that is done, then you'll know if you carry the gene. Once you know if you have the gene, you should be very careful when you're thinking about having children. So that should be a discussion prior to. Once you carry the gene and you have a child, then you should make sure that child is tested to see if they also carry the gene. Because 1 in every 4 pregnancies, if you both have the gene, you can have a child with sickle cell disease, which is very, very, very frustrating, scary, painful, and it's a disease that by the time before you're 10, you can have experienced death, strokes. So there's a lot of things that go with sickle cell disease that you can experience as well.
Yes, I remember in primary school, I had a classmate who had sickle cell, and we remember as children not being able to understand what was going on with him, but we knew that there were times when he'd be in severe pain, we wouldn't see him, and we empathized with him, but we didn't really understand what was going on. So here in the Bahamas, do we have an average, do we know what is the rate of sickle cell amongst the population? Do we have an idea?
No, we don't, and that's, between testing and then building a registry is what we're advocating and trying to do. We're trying to get sickle cell warriors to also come out, identify themselves so we know, so we can help them as well, mentally, physically, financially. Hospital visitations is very important to us, that we support those with the disease and even the caregivers, because as I said before, it's very challenging. We want persons to understand as well, teachers and students and co-workers and employers, that persons with sickle cell disease, they're not faking pain, they're not faking being absent just to be out. You may see me now and think I'm okay, but most of our lives, 99% of the time, we're in pain. Okay, and so we mask a lot of our pain because we want to fit in. We want to do everything that somebody else is doing. And so people don't really understand the level of pain we go through daily. And so when you don't see us for a while, it means that it's really, really bad. And so having the empathy for somebody with sickle cell disease is really, really helpful. And being kind, because a lot of times some sickle cell persons, their eyes are yellow. And so I've had even like experiences with my daughter. People come and, do you know your eyes are yellow? It's very harsh. And so not to be so cruel and understand what they have to go through throughout their lives.
Kayla, love, understanding, awareness, Sickle Cell Awareness Day. We thank you for coming on and sharing with us again your experience and the work of the association. And for you out there in the Bahamas, become informed. It's not just about one day. It's about your health and potentially your children's health and your friends and community around you. So be sure you become aware. Look out for the Bahamas Sickle Cell Association. Look out for Kayla. If you have any questions, be sure to reach out to them. Kayla,
yes,
we love having you on the show.
Thank you for having us. We enjoy being here.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
Do you want to know more about the scriptures, the early Christian church, its teachings, suffering, other religions, the authenticity of the Bible? The Anglican Theological Institute is for you. Enroll in a 3-year certificate program. Classes are conducted from NASA and Freeport on Saturday mornings. Don't miss a class. Stay connected anytime, anywhere, with high-speed internet. Contact us at 603-2481. Visit our Facebook page. Pick up an application form at any Anglican church or at Addington House on Sands Road. The Anglican Theological Institute is for you.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Sun Oil, caring, invested, committed.
As disruptive technologies go, nothing has shaken up the economy more than the smartphones. Apps have completely changed the way we book taxi rides, accommodation, and food delivery. Business sectors that previously had no digital footprint are now synonymous with technology. While names like Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, Just Eat, and Deliveroo are household names around the world, on-demand business touches many other areas of life. Enterprises are trying to find ways to engage users to their services. Businesses will be forced to connect with their customers with a personalized effect. The complex user behavior needs to be tackled with enhanced conversation and better engagement. Though each of the on-demand business is different, there are elements of commonality which forms the basis of technology stack. Business and entrepreneurs just need to focus on their business operations, not technology. JungleWorks is providing complete tech stack on subscription model to help businesses grow.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. I'm so very pleased and privileged to be interviewing my good friend. This is a first for me, but so pleased to have Dr. Wesley Francis, consultant surgical oncologist at PMH. We're going to be talking about an aggressive and sometimes hidden form of disease called pancreatic cancer. Of course, sometimes the symptoms don't even appear until it's a little too late, Doc. But welcome. Thank you for being here this morning.
Well, thanks for the invitation, and good morning, Bahamas.
Yeah. When we talk about the pancreas, and well, let's start. What is it, and what's the role that it plays in the body?
So the pancreas is an organ that it has two main functions. One is in digestion. It produces enzymes that assist in fat and protein digestion. And the second, which probably we know more commonly, is that it produces insulin.
Okay.
And insulin helps with basically glucose management in the body. The pancreas is unique in a way in that it's sort of hidden. When we think about the abdominal cavity, every organ is hidden within what we call the peritoneal cavity. The pancreas, though, is behind all of that, just in front of the spine.
Okay.
So it's really tucked away, way back there. Sometimes people say it's behind God's back somewhere, right? And so because of that, it's unique in its way in that symptoms of it really occur late.
Okay.
And so that's why pancreas cancer becomes a challenge. And so when someone really has pancreatic cancer, before they produce symptoms, by the time they produce symptoms, more often than not, it's at a late stage.
Wow. So how do you prevent it? And then what are the symptoms, number one? And then, but how do you prevent getting this form of cancer?
So first of all, the good thing is it's rare.
Okay.
Okay. When you look at overall cancers, pancreas cancer only, it makes about 3% of overall all cancers.
Okay.
And again, the symptoms though depends on the location within the pancreas itself. Okay. So the pancreas has a head, a neck, and a tail. And so it depends on where the location of the malignancy is or the cancer. That's where the symptom occurs. When it occurs in the head, which is more common, it produces what we call jaundice. And this is yellowing in the eyes, making your urine dark, your stools become pale. Now, that usually gives you an early warning sign. And so whenever you see that, changes in the urine, changes in the color of the eyes, then that's something that physicians need to be aware of, and they will investigate further. The other symptom, especially when it's in the neck and the body and the tail, is pain, because it's tucked away back there. So when you have upper back pain, not lower back pain, upper back pain that's unexplained, that's gnawing, that's nagging, it needs to be fully investigated because it could be an early sign of pancreatic cancer.
Okay.
And so these are the symptoms, and then you get the weight loss, you get the nausea, and when you start to have that, then you know that it's much more in later stages.
Okay, wow. It kind of makes you think, well, how do you prevent this, and is it something that affects men and women the same?
So pancreas cancer disproportionately affects men. Okay, men, and also in terms of age. Most of patients who present with pancreas cancer are over the age of 60. Some of the risk factors in developing, smokers, heavy use of alcohol, people with diabetes have to be concerned about this. One of the other things, and especially within our country, that we have to be concerned about is that, we have a higher prevalence of breast cancer that's caused by this BRCA gene.
Right.
But this BRCA gene also causes pancreatic cancer. So in our society, it's something that is actually a little more frequent that you would find in other society. But our main problem with pancreatic cancer is really that it presents late. And you can hardly do much for it when it comes at that point. But it's just having an awareness of these things. And if you see these early symptoms, then to fully investigate it. And that's what's most important.
Is it something that, is there a test that you can take on an annual basis as a part of a physical or other, or should you be testing
It's not really. What I would say is that you really have to have a relationship with your physician. Okay. I encourage everybody to have a family physician. You have a relationship with that family physician. That person knows you. That person examines you on an annual basis. And when you get into areas where they know that this is a possibility, they will investigate further for that. Any good family physician who you have a relationship with, then they will know at which point you are at greatest risk and how they would investigate you further.
Is it age specific? I mean, the older you get, the more prone you are?
So again, most pancreatic cancers occurs between the age of 60, over the age of 60. Although again, with us, because of this genetic predisposition, sometimes you see some people in their upper 50s actually having pancreas cancer. And so again, it's just about being vigilant about it. Having an annual physical, I think that's most important. Having a relationship, I think that relationship is what's important for your physician to tease out these little subtle symptoms that can be help that can maybe give a sign that there's a possibility that this could be.
Yeah. You talked about some of the causes and the risk factors. They seem to be across the board sometimes with other types of cancers, whether it's, too much alcohol intake, too much smoking. In terms of preventative measures.
So again, there's really not a whole lot of prevention per se for cancer. It's just about early detection. If you can catch it early, then that's great. And again, we encourage everybody to do healthy living, healthy lifestyle. If you could reduce tobacco intake, reduce alcohol intake, you could prevent a whole lot of things. Pancreas cancer is just one of those things. And so there's I can't say one thing that is a preventive mechanism, measure, or one test that you could do on an annual basis. Again, because it's hidden away, the test that you would need is a more invasive test. And so this is not something that you can spread or do all the time for everybody. It really should be indicated by something.
All right, good. Thank you so much, Dr. Wesley Francis, consultant surgical oncologist at PMH. We could probably dig a little more deeper into the science of oncology next time you're on the show.
Definitely.
All right. Problem. Thank you so much. You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
At Doctors Hospital, we recognize the concerns you may have about the coronavirus. Here are a few of the critical things you need to know. Coronaviruses are a large group of viruses that are common among animals, however, can be transmitted from animals to humans. Coronavirus can present itself similar to a common cold, with symptoms such as cough, sore throat, and fever. For those with a weakened immune system, including the elderly, there is a chance that the virus may cause more serious respiratory illness like pneumonia. Human coronaviruses most commonly spread from an infected person to others through the air by coughing and sneezing, close personal contact such as shaking hands, touching an object or surface with the virus on it, followed by touching your mouth, nose, or eyes with unwashed hands. There are currently no vaccines available to protect you against human coronavirus. However, you can limit your vulnerability by taking precautions to prevent transmission. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now. Isn't your health worth it?
Business in the Box is your solution for business from Cable Bahamas. It's an internet, voice, mobile, and advertising solution all in one place. Get reliable internet, free domestic calls, and a live corporate package, and free TV ad placement, all starting with packages as low as $164 a month. You can save over $3,000 a year. Just call 601-8911. That's 601-8911. And ask for Business in a Box from Cable Bahamas Business Solutions. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. We're at the midway point of a Monday's edition. I'm Philip Simon.
And I'm Mark Daniels, filling in on Monday. Monday. It's midday. It's mid-show on Monday.
Mid-show on Monday. Mid-show on Monday. Listen, it's always live and exciting here in the studio. So many different conversations, so many stuff that we just can't put on tape. But always a fun time, especially when MD is here.
Who, me?
Yeah, man.
No. I'm just here.
Listen, interesting conversation with Dr. Francis just now about, men's health, the pancreas. We don't talk about these as much. Right. But all of this, it's about healthy.
Yep.
About healthy lifestyles, healthy living. It's the best prevention for a lot of diseases.
Yeah, and I think he did mention that men are more at risk for pancreatic cancer.
Be more at risk for everything, man.
Hey, man.
Well, no, let me stop that because it's going to be some movement that's going to come behind the scenes and say, stop it, man. You guys
We're not
always
complaining. We're just stating.
Yeah.
But yes, that's why your health is very important. And even when we talked with Kayla from the Bahamas Sickle Cell Association, she talked about the importance of parents and when you're planning your family, that for black and brown peoples, you should take the sickle cell tests to determine whether or not you have that gene so that you know what your risks are going into family planning. And that's one of the things that we need to be more on top of as a people.
And, well, family planning, just period. But certainly a word to the wise is sufficient. We've got more to come, Mark.
Yes, we do.
I'm so very happy, biasly so, with all kind of prejudice this morning to have the most distinguished achiever for Junior Achiever New Providence in the studio. Very bright young lady. Listen, if you are not involved in some of these youth development programs, man, you are missing out, because if you pay attention every day, sometimes to news headlines, you think that there's no hope.
Nope.
But I'm telling you, there is so much hope, great hope, in our country.
Yes, sir. I did Junior Achievement, and it was a very foundational experience for me. And speaking of hope, Rupert Pinder is coming to give us hope on tax reform, right? We got a hope-filled second half of the show.
Well, I tell you, they say death and taxes, the only two sure things in life. But anyway, Rupert's going to talk to us about that. Yes. Like I said, I saw a little lightning coming when I was coming up this morning, but it's still hot as heck here. Can I say that? No? Hot as heck?
Yeah, heck is hot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hot.
Heck is hot, okay. But Godfrey Burnside is going to give us our second look with Weather at Sunrise. Sorry, Mom.
Weather at Sunrise, brought to you by Bahamas First. First in insurance, today, tomorrow.
Thank you, Phil, and good morning, Bahamas. Your second look at weather at sunrise. The tropics first, and we do have an area of low pressure, several miles off Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and that has a 30% chance of development over the next couple of days, 48 hours. We don't see anything because it's moving in some colder water. Elsewhere, tropical storm formation expected during the next 5 days. On the local scene, though, still have that upper level trough, still triggering off some pockets of showers and possible thunderstorms. Yes, Phil, you have seen a thunderstorm, particularly in the southern side. That's Andros, the breeding ground for thunderstorms during the summer months, so you'll have thunderstorms there during the daytime. But we're looking at also high building across the island with some Sahara dust that will dry us out for a couple of days on the most part. In your marine forecast today, though, those winds variable at 10 knots or less, these less than 3 feet over the northwest Bahamas, east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 4 feet over the central and southeastern islands. On Tuesday, variable at 10 knots or less, these less than 3 feet over the northwest Bahamas, east to southeast at 15 knots, 2 to 5 feet over the central and southeastern islands. Then on Wednesday, those winds southeasterly at 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 4 feet of northwest Bahamas, east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 4 feet over the central and southeastern islands. Your tides. You can expect a high tide at 9:17 this morning. Your next low tide will be 3:17 this afternoon. High gain tonight at 9:43. Sunset 8:02 this evening, rises tomorrow at 6:22. UV index 8, your water temperature 79 degrees Fahrenheit, and the moon phase, new moon. Extended look, high pressure bills across the island, some hard dust moves in to stabilize the atmosphere over the next several days. So for the most part, partly sunny skies, yes, hot as heck. A couple of showers by afternoon, the temperature daytime will be around the 90-degree mark, at nighttime in the upper 70s. That puts you up your final look at weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Godfrey. The Junior Achievers End of Year Review virtual ceremony took place on June 1st, and JA and BTC's New Providence top Junior Achiever came away from the event with top awards. Here to talk about the experience is Noel Seymour from St. Anne's and Kevin Turnquest, JA Executive Advisor with BTC. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning, thank you.
Yes, welcome. Thank you for being here. So, for those who do not know, what is Junior Achievement and what is this year's major award?
So, Junior Achievement, for those that don't know, it's a 40-year program that's been in the Bahamas that teaches financial literacy, entrepreneurship to high school age students. The program has now evolved into the primary school now, where they're now teaching students of that age just about money and the value of a dollar and stuff like that. So that's what basically Junior Achievement is. It's building a business and maintaining your money.
Yep, I mentioned.
In a nutshell.
Yes, I mentioned off air. I too was in JA. We had a very awesome product. We made fruit cakes. We sold like tens of them, right? Maybe, but it was a good experience. I really value that. So tell me about the product that your group pitched this year to the Ministry of Agriculture.
So our product was the Garden Buddy, and it is the most convenient method for you to start your own home herb garden. And so what we sell is we sell the biodegradable cup. We sell soil, growing instructions, and about 10 to 15 seeds. And the concept is to teach Bahamians how to cultivate their own garden, how to learn how to eat healthy. It's basically the lifestyle product. We're trying to push towards healthier eating, healthier lifestyles and stuff like that.
That's an awesome idea. What was the motivation behind the idea?
The motivation was, well, the Ministry of Agriculture, or the Ministry of Health kind of jump-started this with the ban on plastic straws and stuff like that. So we saw the Bahamas becoming more of a, I guess, eco-friendly, cleaner country. So we decided to jump on that bandwagon and have an eco-friendly product, but have a healthier product as well, knowing that our top diseases are obesity and heart diseases. We decided to create a product that would help Bahamians to learn how to have a healthier lifestyle.
That's awesome. So what was your role in the program, and how did it feel to be a part of the team?
So I'm the president of the company, and so my role was to basically oversee company functions.
Girl boss.
To make sure, I guess, everybody is kind of doing their job, to communicate with different departments. That's my role, basically, in a nutshell.
And what was your biggest takeaway from the competition and this experience as being president?
My biggest takeaway was, I guess, communication. Knowing your whole company, knowing what's going on is very important in business. In terms of the competition, I've learned to, I guess, don't look at loss as a total failure, to always think of what I could be doing better. Even if I'm winning, always know how to improve myself for future reference. So that's always, that's my biggest takeaway in JA, is to learn.
You're awesome. I think we need to, she coming for your seat, right? Eventually.
She can have it.
She can have your seat, right? That is awesome. So for anybody who's watching that is thinking about joining JA, what is some advice that you would give them?
My advice is, well, when you're new in the company, don't just sit back like I did, or don't just be shy and talk to your one friend in the company and not pay attention to meetings. My advice is to run for president first year, to step out of your comfort zone immediately, to kind of break out your shell, because that's what Jay did for me. Was I was a very shy person, but I learned to put myself out there, and that's my advice to anybody coming in, is to just jump in the water head first. You know what I mean? The worst that could happen is look kind of dumb for like 2 seconds, and that's basically it. Like.
That's all right. We all get out of our comfort zone at times, and if you don't push yourself, then you don't really know what you're capable of.
Right.
For me, you know, I was always interested in science from high school, and I did that in my undergrad and postgrad. But JA did give me the opportunity to peek into the business world, through the eyes of an entrepreneur. Because for us science folk, we're staring at biology, we're staring at nature, but we don't think that business and entrepreneurship is important. And right now, I think one of the things that's been proven during this COVID period is that there are a lot of people out there with creative ideas, with that entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm just glad that JA is fostering that in our children and sending them out into the community.
I think what JA tends to do every year too is remind parents, students, teachers, anybody that wants to know is that the backbone of any economy are the small businesses, the entrepreneurs. And I think what COVID has shown us too is that our country has actually thrived, even though we had to shut down some of our businesses, our small businesses. Like you said, there were these creative minds that weren't attached to any big companies that are actually thriving. And we're now in the era of social media, and if we were to get into that sphere, we will see that that's where they're thriving and their businesses are building. And we've learned, and if we've taught them that a recession actually made millionaires.
Yeah.
So we cannot look at COVID as this big thing that came to shut us down, but how do we now rise from this? How do we engage our creative juices and thrive? And they also know that this year, in order for them to have the success that they had, the team, BTC Horizon, that's their name. Don't forget it.
Horizon.
BTC Horizon. They had to understand that their success came from their sacrifices.
Yes.
Right.
So they had to sacrifice a whole lot in order for us to be at the position that we are. So I'm very proud of what they did. I'm very proud of Noelle. She worked and pushed and is literally the glue that held all of us together.
That's awesome. Girl bossing. So tell me, what happens next for you, Noelle?
So right now I want to focus on my studies at UB. I want to become a veterinarian, so which means I study biology for the first 4 years. And while I am focusing on UB, I'm also starting my own small business, a branch off of the Garden Buddies, and I'm also, I guess, trying to join a lot of different clubs and stay active in UB as well.
And so, show me some of your hardware that you have behind us. I see we got something blinging back there. It's hurting my eyes. What do we got back there?
So this one here is my trophy for Most Distinguished Achiever.
Nice.
And the glass one is my trophy for Most Distinguished Officer President Award.
That's awesome. That looks like a MVP of the NBA award, WNBA, right? I love that. I love that. So, how can somebody find out more about the JA program?
The JA program is spearheaded by Junior Achievement Bahamas. They're actually located on Bay Street. Their numbers are 677-2992. We start again in September, I think. I don't know the exact date. But of course, with COVID, we had the JA Bahamas office, I'm actually with BTC, they are now revamping the program and trying to see how it could be definitely, first of all, safer for companies to still be a part of it. This year we had about 9 or 10 different companies. So COVID is now changing the landscape. We'll see how that works, but we will definitely be here in September and moving on. But Miss Tammy Leckie, she's the director of the program, Miss Chriselle Dean, Miss Erica Morris. You can call in and speak to Jasmine. I don't remember Jasmine's last name. Please don't kill me. But 677-2992 is the number for JA Bahamas. And they're also on Facebook, so JA Bahamas. Just go on and look and read up on the information and take it in. And hopefully more parents, high school and primary school, because like I said, it's now evolved into the primary school arena, can take on this challenge and become more financially aware and understand what it is to start, grow, and maintain a business.
Empowering. I love that.
Empowering our behavior.
Kevin and Noelle, JA Bahamas. BDC what? Horizon?
BTC Horizon.
Thank you very much. And was it Garden Buddy?
Garden
Y'all look out for the Garden Buddy.
Yes.
Thank you guys for coming on Bahamas at Sunrise this morning. We wish you all your successes going forward. Success to BTC going forward with your JA program.
Yes.
I'm going to kick it to you, Phil, because we're not over yet.
Thank you very much, Mark. Congratulations, Noelle. Such a wonderful thing there with Junior Achievement Bahamas. And of course, Keva would be nothing without the support of the advisors. Happy, once again, to have our resident professor, resident economist, I'm going to upgrade you in all of these titles, Rupert Pinder, back on Bahamas at Sunrise. We had the national budget it's still ongoing until the end of the month. So many different things, but we want to talk about tax reform. I know we only got about 5 minutes or so, Rupert. It's going to be difficult, but it's such an important topic, And maybe there might have been a missed opportunity for us to be transformative in our approach to it over the last several weeks.
You know, it's interesting because I was just reading something the other night. You know, I think Rahm Emanuel, the former mayor of Chicago, had certainly popularized the term "never let a good crisis
go to waste." Winston
right?
Churchill as well.
Right? But he certainly, well, I guess in more recent times, popularized it. But certainly, and I think one of the things is that we all know in terms of this growing fiscal deficit, right? And that's, for example, for this upcoming budget, you're looking at a projected fiscal deficit of $1.3 billion. And of course, nobody really wants to hear about taxes, particularly in a very bad economy.
Right.
But I think sooner or later, in my view, I think we're going to have that discussion, right? And one of the things that we do know here is that we have a tax system which is highly regressive. It's a consumption-based tax. It is one where if you would ask what's in the low end of the income spectrum, I'm sure that they will present a case, and perhaps it's a case that can be argued, perhaps with their overtax.
Right.
But if you were to look at our tax revenues relative to our income or our GDP, most of the experts would argue that we are perhaps arguably undertaxed in the aggregate.
Right.
So again, I mean, and one of the things here is that if we had this conversation, say 15, 20 years ago, my views may have been different. But if you look in terms of some things that's happening with the OECD, with the blacklisting, and a lot of it really not just looking in terms of whether or not when the financial service, when there's any engagement in terms of nefarious activities, it's really in terms of tax evasion. So a lot of them are looking in terms of the extent to which they can bring more of the tax revenues onshore.
Right.
And so when you look at it, the question is that whether or not there's an opportune time now to start talking this issue of income or direct taxation, or even corporate gains tax. And then there's also the other argument as to whether or not we should continue to market ourselves or brand ourselves, however you want to frame it, as a tax haven, but more one in terms of a low income tax sort of jurisdiction. And certainly I think in terms of coming from academia, the question is not so much, it's not always in terms of politically correct sort of conversation, but really in terms of the extent to which you can drive a conversation to so that we can start looking in terms of this sort of reforms.
So the goal is to get to a more equitable position.
Precisely.
For all.
Precisely.
For all.
Precisely. Well, even, but bearing in mind that even with income tax, it has its own fear of challenges. So, you know, even they don't necessarily get, but it's certainly more equitable. Let's put it this way, more equitable than a more
and not as regressive as it
precisely, a more progressive form of taxation.
So when we talk about taxes, I mean, immediately the hairs on all of our arms raised because we think right away increase, because that's the only way taxes, for the most part, ever go. But we're not just talking about new taxes or increased taxes. You're talking about tax reform.
Precisely, and part of that reform is also in terms of broadening the tax, you know, the tax base. You know, we mentioned in terms of, you know, the conversation obviously is along the line. It's open in discussion in terms of more in terms of the income tax. But again, even to add to the discussion, even in terms of the tax concessions, right? Because those sort of things also erode in terms of your tax base. And the question is that, I mean, for example, you know, you have a lot of tax concessions that are given in terms of attracting foreign direct investment. And obviously that has a place, right? But again, the question is that whether or not we need to be a bit more judicious in terms of, you know, where we give the concessions, given and I guess we come right back to that same theme, to the extent to which, you know, don't let a good crisis go to waste, right?
Well, nobody really wants to talk
about... And it sounds, you know, with the country say good crisis, but...
Understood, I understood. I mean, we put it in quotes. And nobody ever really wants to talk about crisis, I mean, especially in hardships like this. But at the same time, it is something that our country has to come face to face. Like you say, the aggregate total, I mean, and people, you know, you're in the business, so you know this, I'm kind of familiar with it. The aggregate total in terms of the way that we are taxed here, you're right. It is relatively speaking lower than a lot of other countries, no doubt about it. But to the real, you know, working, you know, man on the street, everyday Bahamian, the pressures are tremendous. So I'm going to flip it just a little bit. I know we talked about tax reform, but there's another side of the equation that deals with a decrease in the amount of expenses, the cost side of the equation, that might have just as much impact as tax reform. And I know, you know, we talk about the size of government, we talk about all these other things. Is there a way to balance both?
Well, I mean, and you've summed it up pretty well. I mean, bearing in mind that while we focus in terms of tax reform, ideally you really want to look at fiscal reform, right, which will include both your expenditures as well as your tax side of it. And for example, like in my view, and one of the things I felt is that from the budget perspective, I would have liked to see more discussion in terms of reforms. But again, bearing in mind that on the expenditure side of it, I mean, we've been talking at length about the state-owned enterprises. Right. I mean, that's certainly in terms of the elephant in the room. I mean, and even if you were to look even on the debt side of it, if I'm not mistaken, the numbers not refresh me, but I'm willing to go on a limb here. The contingent liabilities alone with respect, and that's in terms of the debt owed by the public corporations, I think it's like around $800 million thereabouts. So when you look in terms of the contingent liabilities, you look in terms of the expenditure that comes from the budget every year, the service in terms of the state-owned enterprises, I mean, that's certainly one of the elephants in the room, even in terms of the expenditure cuts. And we all know in terms of how over the last, I don't know, a couple election cycles, how the size of the civil service has obviously expanded. Right. But again, to the extent to which you can address this growing fiscal deficit, look at tax reform, more importantly, look at economic growth, and to the extent to which there are more opportunities created within the private sector, you can look to the extent to which you can have attrition within the public sector in terms of persons moving to the private sector, and at the same time, hopefully reducing some of the pressures on the state-owned enterprises as well.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, we reflect and we sit here and we kind of ponder exactly what it means for us going forward. If we're not going to be doing these things now, in the midst of
a good crisis,
when can we? I mean, the government has indicated that it will be slashing across the board, from the state-owned enterprises, and also some of the budgets, 20%, this and that. But is that just a temporary measure? And I don't know, how do we get there, Rupert? I mean, maybe that's a question for another time. But again, always good having you on the show. What do you say? I mean, what do you say as a final word? Say to government if you had an opportunity right now.
Well, one of the things here is that, and I think, clearly, I mean, this is a very difficult time, including and particularly for those persons, I guess, in the ministry, within the Ministry of Finance, because having to craft a budget in terms of this environment is no easy feat.
Correct.
But at the same time, too, and I think, for the most part, from what I can say, I can see some movements, to the extent to which you try to get views from a broad cross spectrum of persons, including the academic community, because, I mean, the answers obviously don't lie in just one area.
Right.
Or just one particular grouping.
Right. Okay, so continue to have the conversation.
Precisely.
All right, great. Listen, Rupert Pinder, economist, professor. Good to have you back here on Bahamas at Sunrise.
Thank you, too.
All right, you're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
As disruptive technologies go, nothing has shaken up the economy more than the smartphones. Apps have completely changed the way we book taxi rides, accommodation, and food delivery. Business sectors that previously had no digital footprint are now synonymous with technology. While names like Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, Just Eat, and Deliveroo are household names around the world, on-demand business touches many other areas of life. Enterprises are trying to find ways to engage users to their services. Businesses will be forced to connect with their customers with a personalized effect. The complex user behavior needs to be tackled with enhanced conversation and better engagement. Though each of the on-demand business is different, there are elements of commonality which forms the basis of technology stack. Business and entrepreneurs just need to focus on their business operations, not technology. JungleWorks is providing complete tech stack on subscription model to help businesses grow.
Do you want to know more about the scriptures, the early Christian church, its teachings, suffering, other religions, the authenticity of the Bible? The Anglican Theological Institute is for you. Enroll in a 3-year certificate program. Classes are conducted from NASA and Freeport on Saturday mornings. Don't miss a class. Stay connected anytime, anywhere, with high-speed internet. Contact us at 603-2481. Visit our Facebook page. Pick up an application form at any Anglican church or at Addington House on Sands Road. The Anglican Theological Institute is for you.
Nourish your immune system. Nourish your health. Nourish your life with Ensure. Ensure Original, Ensure Plus, and Ensure Max Protein.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Bahamas at Sunrise. So very pleased that you joined us this morning. Mark.
Hey.
Mark.
Hey!
Socially distant.
There you go, right? Yeah, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Monday now, eh?
And week. We'll see you again soon.
See you on Friday.
Bye.